I used to believe that some friendships were unbreakable, the kind that last a lifetime and never turn cold. That was me and Lena. From the time we were little girls, we were inseparable. We grew up side by side, shared secrets, dreams, and heartbreaks, and promised that no matter what happened in life, we'd never betray each other. Everyone around us said we were like sisters, and I believed them with all my heart. She knew everything about me, my fears, my insecurities, my wildest dreams. I trusted her more than I trusted myself, and I never imagined a day when that trust would shatter. Back then, I was in love with Noah. He was kind, gentle, and had this calm confidence that made me feel safe. He wasn't perfect, but in my eyes, he was everything I had ever wanted. He would drive across the city just to bring me coffee before class. He'd leave me small notes saying I made his days brighter. Every night, without fail, I'd get a goodnight text, and I'd fall asleep smiling, thinking this was the man I'd spend the rest of my life with. For once, everything in my world felt right. I had a loving boyfriend and a best friend who supported me. What could possibly go wrong? Lena adored hearing about Noah. Whenever I'd tell her about something sweet he did, she'd listen with that soft smile of hers. She'd say things like, "You're so lucky, he sounds perfect." And I'd reply with a grin, "He really is." But sometimes, I'd catch a strange glimmer in her eyes, something that felt less like happiness for me and more like envy. I brushed it off because that's what you do when you love someone. You overlook the shadows and hold on to the light. The three of us started hanging out more often. Movie nights, dinners, long drives. It made sense at the time. I wanted the two most important people in my life to get along, and they did. Maybe a little too well. I'd walk into the room and see them laughing at an inside joke I didn't understand. Sometimes Noah's phone would light up with her name, and he'd smile while texting her back. When I'd ask who it was, he'd say casually, "Just Lena. She's funny." It didn't bother me then. I thought it was harmless. I thought they were just friends. One afternoon, I sat in a cafe with Lena, talking about Noah, like I always did. She leaned closer and said softly, "You know, if I ever find a guy like Noah, I'd never let him go." I laughed, thinking it was just a compliment, and told her, "Good luck. Guys like him don't come around often." She smiled, but it wasn't her usual smile. There was something forced about it, something I couldn't quite name. I ignored it because that's what trust makes you do. It blinds you to warning signs that should have been obvious. Life kept moving, and I was too wrapped up in my own happiness to notice the cracks forming around me. I believed I had everything figured out. Lena was my best friend. Noah was my soulmate, and I was living the dream I'd always wanted. I had no idea that beneath those smiles and shared laughter, something darker was growing. Every joke between them, every secret glance, every moment I wasn't paying attention, it was all part of something I couldn't see yet. Looking back now, I can trace the moments when it all began to shift. The little things that didn't make sense. The way Lena's compliments turned into comparisons. The way Noah's texts became shorter. His calls less frequent. I thought he was just busy, and I thought Lena was just being supportive. But I was wrong. They weren't just building a friendship. They were building a secret. Sometimes I replay those days in my head like a movie I've watched too many times. I can see myself smiling, unaware, believing that love and friendship could never hurt me. I want to reach through the memory and tell that version of me too. Open her eyes to notice how easily trust can be twisted into something dangerous. But it's too late. The story was already set in motion, and the betrayal was already waiting around the corner. I didn't know it then, but the people I loved most were about to teach me the cruelest lesson of my life. The girl who once believed in forever was about to learn that even the purest friendships can hide the darkest intentions. And all the laughter, all the shared memories, all the promises of loyalty, they were just the calm before the storm that would change everything. It started with little things, the kind you overlook because you trust the people closest to you. Lena began asking about Noah, more often than usual. Simple questions at first, the kind that sounded caring, almost sisterly. "How's he doing?" she'd ask. "Did he text you today?" I never thought twice about it. She was my best friend after all. Why would I ever suspect her of anything? But slowly, her presence began to creep into places it didn't belong. Whenever Noah and I made plans, Lena would somehow appear out of nowhere. If we were having dinner, she'd show up at the same restaurant, laughing it off like coincidence. If it was movie night, she'd send a last-minute text, "Mind if I join?" Like it was no big deal. Noah didn't seem to mind. In fact, he seemed to enjoy it. He'd laugh at her jokes a little too easily, listen a little too closely, and I started to notice how his attention drifted toward her whenever she was around. Still, I brushed it off. I told myself I was overthinking, that I was just being paranoid, because that's what love does. It makes you defend people, even when something deep inside you is screaming that something's wrong. I didn't want to be that girlfriend, the one who questions every glance, every laugh. So, I smiled, pretended nothing was off, and convinced myself they were just friends. But the late-night messages changed everything. One night, I woke up and noticed Noah's phone lighting up beside him. A message from Lena, 2:03 a.m. My heart pounded as I stared at the screen, wondering if I should look. I didn't. I woke him instead, trying to sound calm as I asked, "Why is Lena texting you this late?" He blinked, half asleep, and said, "She's upset. I was just comforting her." And then he rolled over like it was nothing. The next day, Lena showed up at my place. Eyes red, voice trembling. "I'm sorry," she said. "I was having a breakdown last night. I didn't mean to bother him." She even cried. Real tears, or maybe practiced ones. I hugged her, feeling ashamed for doubting her. Noah stood behind me, arms crossed, watching us, silent, unreadable. And just like that, I believed them both. Because that's what trust does. It blinds you. It makes you ignore the tightening in your chest, the way the air changes when two people share a secret they're not supposed to. I told myself everything was fine, but deep down, a quiet unease began to grow, a whisper I refused to hear. Looking back now, I see it so clearly. The glances that lasted too long, the private jokes I wasn't part of, the way Lena's tone softened when she spoke his name. I should have known something was slipping away from me, slowly, quietly, under the disguise of friendship and concern. But I didn't, because sometimes betrayal doesn't scream. It smiles, and you don't notice until it's far too late. A few weeks later, things started to shift, quietly, but enough for me to feel it in my bones. It was in the way Noah stopped meeting my eyes when he talked, in how his texts went from paragraphs to single lines, in how Lena, my best friend, had gone from being my daily confidant to a ghost who only appeared when it suited her. I tried to tell myself I was imagining it, that maybe everyone was just busy, tired, distracted. But you can't fool your instincts forever. Noah's voice had changed. The warmth that used to comfort me now sounded like a performance. Every time he spoke, I felt like I was talking to someone wearing his face, not him. "Just stressed with work," he'd say, giving a weak smile. "That don't worry so much." But that's what I did. Worry. Because when someone you love begins to pull away, it's like feeling gravity fade. You still stand on the ground, but nothing feels steady anymore. And Lena, she was different too. Her texts became shorter, her calls rare. When we did meet, she was glued to her phone, smiling at messages she wouldn't explain. Sometimes, I'd catch her typing fast, and then quickly locking the screen when I looked over. I tried to ignore it, tried to stay calm, but the unease in my stomach grew heavier every day. One afternoon, I went to a small cafe we used to love. Just me and Lena. She was distracted the entire time, barely looking up from her phone. "Who are you talking to?" I asked, half teasing. She smiled faintly and said, "Just work stuff." But her job didn't require late-night conversations and secret smiles. When I reached for her phone jokingly, she pulled it away so fast, it made me stop laughing. She changed the topic instantly. Asked about Noah, about how we were doing. Her tone was casual, but something in her eyes made me uneasy. Then came the moment that sealed it. The silence. The kind that fills a room when truth hides behind smiles. I started noticing how they both acted differently when I was around. They'd go quiet when I entered, glance at each other, and then look away. It was subtle, almost invisible if you weren't looking for it. But I was. I began to live in that silence, listening for answers that never came. Still, I clung to denial. I didn't want to be the paranoid girlfriend or the suspicious friend. I convinced myself they were both just stressed, that I was overthinking. Because sometimes, it's easier to believe a lie than face the heartbreak of truth. Then came the night everything broke. Our mutual friend Mia was throwing a birthday party, and everyone was invited. I'd been looking forward to it all week. A chance to relax, to laugh again. But that evening, Lena texted me first. "Hey, I'm not feeling great. I think I'll skip tonight." I sent her a heart emoji and told her to rest. 10 minutes later, Noah called. "Babe, I can't make it either. Work stuff. Gotta stay late." His voice was calm, convincing, but something in me hesitated. I brushed it off, told myself it was just bad timing. Still, the pit in my stomach refused to ease. At the party, I tried to distract myself, smiling, laughing, pretending everything was fine. But when the music slowed and people started taking photos, I felt a strange pull to check my phone. It was instinct, or maybe fate. That's when I saw it. Lena's Instagram story. A dimly lit restaurant, candles flickering softly, 2 glasses of wine on a small table, and in the corner of the frame, unmistakable, Noah's watch. The silver one I'd given him for our first anniversary. My breath caught. My hands began to shake. I replayed the story again and again, hoping I was wrong, praying there was some innocent explanation. But there wasn't. For the rest of the night, I sat in my car, outside the venue, staring at that story until it disappeared. The laughter from inside the party echoed in the background, mocking the storm raging inside me. I thought about calling one of them, demanding the truth, but I didn't. I couldn't. Because deep down, I already knew, when morning came, I hadn't slept. My eyes were swollen, but no tears had fallen. I was too numb to cry. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A message from Mia. "I saw Noah and Lena last night. They were together, holding hands. Just 8 words. But they split something inside me cleanly, like a blade through glass." I stared at the message, reread it, then read it again. My chest tightened, but my mind was eerily calm. That's the cruel part about betrayal. It doesn't always come with shouting or dramatic scenes. Sometimes it's just quiet, heavy, final. I sat there for a long time, letting it sink in. The 2 people I'd trusted most, the 2 who promised they'd never hurt me, had done it together. I thought about every memory, every secret I'd shared with Lena, every moment of vulnerability. I thought about Noah's promises, his late-night calls, his words about forever. All of it, lies. Carefully built lies. Still, I didn't cry. Not yet. My body felt like stone. My heart ached, but my tears refused to come. Because when betrayal hits that deep, it doesn't explode. It seeps in, burning slow, quiet, and cruel. And as I sat there, one thought kept echoing through my mind. If they were bold enough to betray me in silence, I'd be bold enough to make the truth scream. For weeks, I disappeared. I turned my phone off, deleted every social media account, and shut the world out completely. Every corner of my city reminded me of them. The cafe where we used to sit for hours. The park bench where Noah once promised he'd never hurt me. The street where Lena and I laughed until our stomachs ached. All of it felt poisoned now. Even songs that once lifted my mood stabbed a little deeper every time they played. It felt like the universe was mocking me with memories I couldn't escape. People tried to reach me, but I ignored every message, every knock on my door. I didn't have the energy to explain what had happened or the strength to pretend that I was okay. I just needed silence. Not the kind that soothes you, but the kind that hurts enough to make you see things clearly. Those first few nights were the hardest. I cried until my chest physically ached. Then, one morning, I realized the tears had stopped. I wasn't sure when it happened. Maybe in the middle of the night, maybe after I ran out of energy. But my eyes were dry, and my heart felt numb. I wasn't okay, but I wasn't breaking anymore either. I just existed, floating between anger and exhaustion, watching the days blur together. It was in that silence that I started to think, really think. I replayed every memory, every conversation, every small innocent moment that I had brushed off before. The way Lena had laughed at Noah's jokes, longer than she needed to. The way she'd leaned in closer when he spoke, pretending not to notice how her hand rested just a little too long on his arm. The sudden secrets, the excuses that made no sense. I realized they hadn't just made a mistake. This wasn't something that happened overnight. They had built this betrayal piece by piece, like architects of deceit. And the most painful part, I had helped them. I had trusted them so completely that I gave them every chance to destroy me. And they took it. But pain has a strange way of changing people. It doesn't just break you. It remakes you. In that quiet darkness, I started to see things differently. I realized that pain could either drown me or shape me. It could either define my weakness or sharpen my strength. I chose the latter. When I looked at myself in the mirror after weeks of hiding, I saw someone new. My eyes were swollen, my hair a mess, but behind that exhaustion was something fierce. A spark I hadn't seen before. I wasn't the same woman who blindly believed that everyone I loved would protect me. I wasn't soft anymore. I was steady. Cold maybe, but clear. They thought they had broken me, that I'd stay down forever, too fragile to face the truth. But what they didn't realize was that heartbreak had given me something far more powerful than love ever did. Perspective. I didn't want to destroy them out of rage. I wanted something purer. I wanted justice, not the kind that screamed or shattered things, but the kind that revealed everything. Truth in broad daylight. If they wanted to play dirty, I'd play smarter. I wasn't going to fight them with anger. I was going to fight them with truth. Because truth cuts deeper than betrayal ever could. So I began to think differently. I stopped crying. I started watching. I didn't block them. I let them think I was gone, silent, defeated. Meanwhile, I paid attention. Every post Lena made, every photo she shared, every fake smile, it all told a story. I noticed the timing, the captions, the lies carefully disguised as happiness, and Noah's comments under her pictures, pretending to be supportive, pretending to have moved on, were proof enough of their guilt. At first, I felt anger every time I saw their faces online. But soon, anger gave way to something colder, calmer, strategy. I started to understand that revenge didn't have to be violent or loud. It could be quiet, precise, and deeply satisfying. Because the thing about people who build their happiness on lies is that they never build it strong enough to last. One day, all lies crumble. All I had to do was give theirs a little push, and as I sat there, scrolling through their carefully curated photos, I realized something else. People like them always expose themselves eventually. They may look like they've won, like they've escaped the consequences, but the truth always finds a way to rise. It might take time, but it never fails. That night, for the first time in weeks, I slept peacefully. Not because the pain was gone, but because I had a purpose now. I wasn't going to beg for closure. I wasn't going to wait for an apology. I was going to make sure they faced the truth they thought they could bury, because nothing burns worse than getting caught in your own lies. And soon, they'd learn exactly how that feels. I started pretending everything was fine. Every morning, I made sure to smile in the mirror before taking a photo that looked effortlessly happy. I went out with people I barely knew, laughed louder than I felt, and posted pictures that screamed, "I've moved on." It wasn't real happiness, but it was strategic. I needed them to think I was healing, that I'd buried the pain and forgotten what they did. Because when people think you're done caring, they stop hiding. And that's when they make mistakes. Lena messaged me one evening, just her name lighting up my screen. "Hey, can we talk?" I stared at it for a while, then locked my phone without replying. The silence that followed was more powerful than any words I could have sent. A few days later, another message came. "I feel terrible about everything. Please, can we just meet?" I ignored that one too. She wanted to ease her guilt, to rewrite what she'd done into something more palatable. But I wasn't giving her that chance. My silence was my armor, and every unread message was a reminder that she'd lost the right to explanations. While I was pretending to move on, I found myself going through some old folders from college, shared documents, group chats, and archived projects we'd worked on together. I hadn't opened them in years, but curiosity guided me. That's when I noticed something strange. One of the files, a report I had written for a university presentation, had been slightly altered and saved under her name. I thought it might be a mistake, but as I looked deeper, I found more. Whole paragraphs, even designs, copied and reused in what looked like an internship submission. The shock hit me hard. Not only had she stolen my boyfriend, she had stolen my work too. I began to piece everything together carefully. Screenshots, emails, timestamps, old drafts, every bit of evidence that proved those files were mine. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't rant on social media. Instead, I gathered everything neatly, methodically, like I was building a quiet storm. I wanted to make sure when the truth came out, it wouldn't just be emotional. It would be undeniable. When I had enough, I wrote an email to the company she was interning for. It was short and professional. I simply explained that some of the work she had submitted matched documents I had authored during college, and attached proof to support my claim. No threats, no accusations, just facts. I hit send, and for the first time in months, I felt something close to peace. Not happiness, not satisfaction, just a calm certainty that truth was finally in motion. A week passed before I heard anything. Then the whispers began. Lena had been dropped from her internship. She tried to play it off like it was a misunderstanding, but the company had already done their own checks. The work wasn't hers. I didn't need to post about it or tell anyone. It spread on its own. People who used to believe her started asking questions. Friends who once looked at me with pity began to look at her with doubt. The balance was shifting, quietly, exactly as I wanted. Then, like karma working in sequence, Ethan's internship fell apart too. He and Lena had both been working for the same firm, something I hadn't even known at the time. When her plagiarism came to light, his involvement raised eyebrows too. There were rumors about him helping her, about shared files and favoritism. Soon, both of them were out. No confrontation, no drama, just consequences. I didn't celebrate. I didn't even smile when I heard. There was no satisfaction in seeing them fall, just a strange, still silence inside me. It wasn't revenge anymore. It was justice. And justice doesn't always feel sweet. It's cold, quiet, and irreversible. Still, I knew I had done the right thing. I hadn't lied, exaggerated, or lashed out. I'd simply shown the truth and let it speak for itself. People began to notice the change. They saw that I wasn't angry or bitter. I didn't gossip or try to prove anything. I carried myself with calm. Even when I crossed paths with mutual friends who tried to bring their names into conversation, I just shrugged and said, I wish them well. The contrast between their chaos and my calm did more damage than any words ever could. It made them look smaller, guiltier, exposed. Late at night, when I was alone, I sometimes wondered if I had gone too far. Maybe I should have just let it go and moved on. But then I remembered the betrayal, the lies, the way they both smiled to my face while stabbing me in the back. They had taken too much from me. My trust, my peace, my self-respect. Taking back control wasn't cruel. It was necessary. I didn't destroy them. They destroyed themselves the moment they chose deceit over loyalty. I just helped the truth come to light. Eventually, people stopped talking about it. The gossip died down. Life moved forward. Lena and Ethan faded into the background, their perfect image quietly erased. And me? I didn't feel victorious. I just felt free. The kind of freedom that comes when you finally stop needing revenge and start choosing truth instead. A few days later, my phone buzzed with a message from Lena. I hesitated before opening it, already knowing it wouldn't bring peace. The text was short and bitter. Why are you doing this to me? I read it twice, then typed back, calm and steady. I'm not doing anything. The truth is, I pressed send, knowing those few words would sting more than any argument ever could. Within minutes, the phone began to ring. Her name flashed across the screen again and again until I finally answered. The moment I picked up, I could hear her crying. Her words came out uneven, tangled in emotion. She accused me of ruining her life, said I'd turned everyone against her, that I was obsessed with revenge. I didn't interrupt her. I just listened. The guilt in her voice said more than her words ever could. And then, almost as if the universe wanted me to hear it, she slipped and said, Ethan left me. For a moment, I was silent. She kept talking, saying he'd called her too much drama, that he needed a break from all the chaos. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was poetic. The same man who betrayed me had done the same to her. The cycle had completed itself. Karma didn't need my help. It worked quietly, perfectly, and right on time. After she hung up, I sat on my bed, phone still in hand, staring at the wall. The anger I expected to feel never came. There was no satisfaction in her pain, no victory in her loss. Instead, there was stillness, deep, steady, peaceful. I realized then that this was what healing felt like. Not fireworks or dramatic closure, just calm acceptance. I had finally reached the point where I didn't need revenge to feel free. The truth had already done enough, but I still wanted to close the chapter properly. I didn't want to hold on to bitterness, and I didn't want to keep quiet either. So, I opened my social media account and started typing. My hands didn't tremble this time. My words came naturally, effortlessly. I didn't mention names. I didn't accuse anyone. I just wrote what was in my heart. Some friendships are lessons in disguise. Some people teach you what betrayal really means. But eventually, truth wins. Quietly, but completely. I read it over once, smiled faintly, and hit post. There was no dramatic announcement, no hidden message. It was simple, honest, real. Within minutes, people started reacting. Likes, comments, messages, all rolling in faster than I could read. I didn't say their names, but everyone knew. The truth doesn't need labels. People recognize it when they see it. By the end of the day, everything had changed. Lena's reputation as the sweet, trustworthy friend began to crumble. The same people who once defended her were now silent. Some even unfollowed her, pretending they hadn't believed her lies in the first place. And Ethan, he wasn't spared either. His charm faded the moment his deceit came to light. People whispered about him now, not with admiration, but with disgust. "He's the one who got exposed," someone commented under my post, and that one sentence spread like wildfire. I didn't reply to any of it. I didn't gloat or try to explain. I just watched, quiet and detached, as the truth did its work. I hadn't destroyed them. They'd done that to themselves. All I'd done was stop protecting their lies. Watching their facade crumble didn't make me happy, but it did bring peace. Real, quiet peace. That night, I put my phone away and sat by the window, looking out at the street below. The air felt different, lighter somehow. I realized I didn't need closure from them. I had created my own. I had faced betrayal, survived it, and turned it into strength. They were ghosts now, remnants of a story I'd already outgrown. The best part wasn't that they'd been exposed. It was that I no longer cared. The truth had spoken, the world had listened, and I had finally moved on. Months slipped by quietly, like pages turning in a book I no longer wanted to read. After everything that had happened, life began to feel strangely peaceful. Not because it was perfect, but because I had finally stopped chasing what was already gone. The chaos, the heartbreak, the constant overthinking. It all began to fade, replaced by a calm that came from acceptance. I didn't post about it, didn't make any grand declarations. I just lived, quietly, intentionally, and for myself. At first, the silence was strange. I had spent so long drowning in noise. The lies, the guilt, the what-ifs. But when all of that vanished, I started hearing my own thoughts again, and they were finally kind. I focused on small things. Morning walks, new playlists, learning to cook dishes I'd never tried before. I got a new job, met new people, surrounded myself with energy that didn't drain me. I wasn't trying to move on anymore. I was simply moving forward. There were days when the memories tried to return. The nights of laughter. The way Ethan used to look at me before everything fell apart. The way Alyssa used to say, "You're like a sister to me." Those moments stung for a while. But pain, I learned, doesn't always stay sharp. Over time, it dulls. It becomes something you can carry without flinching. I stopped asking why they did what they did. Some questions don't deserve answers. One evening, after a long week at work, I went to my favorite cafe. The same cafe Ethan and I used to visit together. It wasn't intentional, just muscle memory guiding me there. I ordered my usual drink and sat by the window, scrolling through my phone, lost in thought. That's when I heard a familiar voice behind me. I didn't even need to turn around to know it was him. Ethan. When I finally looked up, he was standing there, hands in his pockets, wearing that same nervous half smile I used to find charming. But now it just looked tired, forced. There was something different about him. His eyes didn't have that spark anymore. His posture, his tone. Everything about him felt deflated, like someone who had learned regret the hard way. "Hey," he said softly, almost like he wasn't sure if he had the right to speak to me. "Hey," I replied, calm and unreadable. He sat down across from me, uninvited but hesitant, like a man trying to approach a memory. There was an awkward silence at first, one I didn't feel the need to fill. He asked how I was. I said I was good. He smiled faintly, then looked down at his cup, as if searching for words. Finally, he whispered, "I miss what we had." For a split second, I felt something stir. Not love, not longing, just the faint echo of who I used to be. Then it vanished. I looked at him, steady and sure, and said, "I don't." The words weren't bitter. They were simply the truth. And that truth carried a power I hadn't felt in a long time. He blinked, caught off guard, and nodded slowly, pretending to understand. But we both knew he didn't. You can't understand peace until you've destroyed it. I finished my drink, stood up, and smiled politely before walking away. No dramatic ending, no raised voices, just closure in its purest form, silence. As I stepped out into the evening air, I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't broken either. I was free. In the months that followed, I stopped talking about them altogether. They became background characters in a story that was no longer about them. I focused on my own growth, learning new skills, traveling to places I'd always postponed visiting, and surrounding myself with people who saw my worth without me having to prove it. Alyssa tried reaching out once. A short message that said, "I hope you're doing okay." I never replied. Forgiveness wasn't something I owed her. It was something I was giving to myself. By not responding, I wasn't holding a grudge. I was simply choosing peace. Some people don't deserve your words anymore. Silence can be the loudest closure of all. There were still nights when I'd lie awake, thinking about everything. How it started, how it ended, and how it all led me here. I'd remember the pain, the tears, the nights I couldn't sleep. But then I'd think about the strength that grew out of it, the woman I became because of it. And suddenly, I'd feel grateful, because sometimes betrayal isn't the end of your story. It's just the plot twist that wakes you up. I realized that the old version of me, the one who trusted too easily, who gave too much, who loved without boundaries, wasn't weak. She was kind. She believed in people. She wanted to see the good in them. And while that version of me got hurt, she also paved the way for the person I became. Someone wiser, calmer and unshakable. One night sitting by my window, I watched the city lights dance across the skyline. For the first time in years, I wasn't haunted by ghosts. The air felt lighter, my thoughts quieter. I realized I didn't need revenge anymore. I didn't need apologies. I didn't even need closure from anyone else. I already had it, within me. I whispered a quiet thank you into the night. Not to Ethan, not to Alyssa, but to the pain that taught me everything I needed to know about strength. They had taken so much from me, but in trying to break me, they gave me the gift of rebirth. Now when I look back, I don't see betrayal. I see transformation. Losing them wasn't my downfall. It was my awakening. And the peace I carry now isn't something anyone can take away again. Because I didn't find it in someone else. I built it piece by piece, out of the ashes they left behind. I'm not the girl they betrayed anymore. I'm the woman who learned to walk away, to rebuild, to smile again. Not because everything worked out, but because I did. And that, in the end, is the greatest revenge of all. Looking back now, I can finally say I don't regret anything that happened. Not the endless tear that soaked my pillow. Not the sleepless nights spent questioning my worth. Not even the sharp sting of betrayal that tore through my chest. Because every piece of pain, every crack in my heart, shaped the person I became. It built a version of me that is unshakable, grounded and aware. Pain, as much as we hate it, is life's most honest teacher. It breaks us down, yes, but it also rebuilds us stronger than before. When I think of Alyssa now, I don't see her as the girl who destroyed my trust. I see her as a mirror, one that showed me what false friendship really looks like. She taught me that not every person who smiles at you is sincere. Some people don't come into your life to love you. They come to learn you, to imitate your light until they think they can replace it. Alyssa taught me that loyalty can't be forced, that real friendship doesn't hide secrets behind fake laughter. For a long time, I thought I needed friends like her to feel complete, but she showed me that sometimes losing people is the best kind of protection the universe gives you. Ethan, on the other hand, taught me a different kind of lesson, that love without respect is just an illusion. It might look beautiful on the outside, but it's hollow within. I used to believe in grand gestures and sweet words, but what good are they if they come from a dishonest heart? His betrayal stripped me of the fairy tale I had built in my mind, but it also gave me something far more valuable: clarity. He reminded me that real love doesn't make you doubt yourself, doesn't make you compete, and doesn't make you feel small. It builds you, not breaks you. And if it breaks you, then it was never love to begin with. Life itself taught me the most important lesson of all, that the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's peace. It's walking away without bitterness, without needing to explain or prove anything. It's rebuilding yourself so quietly and powerfully that the very people who doubted you have no choice but to watch your rise from a distance. That's real victory. Not shouting your pain, but wearing your healing like armor. I used to think getting back at people meant showing them I could hurt them too. But the truth is, that kind of revenge only keeps you tied to the pain. It makes you relive the very thing you're trying to escape. Real strength is in detachment, in rising without hate, in thriving without validation. When you grow beyond what broke you, you win in ways they'll never understand. The peace you earn becomes your loudest statement. Healing isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about remembering it differently. It's about looking at the wound and realizing it no longer bleeds. It's about revisiting the same memories that once crushed you and seeing them as lessons instead of scars. You stop asking, "Why did they do this to me?" and start saying, "Thank you for showing me who you really are." That's when you know you've healed. When the story no longer hurts to tell. To anyone listening who's been betrayed, I know how heavy that pain feels. It's like the air leaves your lungs, like every truth you knew suddenly collapses. You start to question everything, your judgment, your worth, your ability to trust again. But I promise you, betrayal doesn't destroy you. It refines you. It burns away your illusions and leaves behind only the truth. It forces you to grow, to rebuild, to find strength you didn't know you had. Don't waste your energy plotting revenge. Don't lose yourself trying to make them regret it. Let life handle that. The universe always returns what people put out. Not on your timing, but on the right timing. Your job isn't to hurt them back. It's to outgrow them. It's to walk so far ahead that they can never reach you again. That's the sweetest kind of justice. Becoming untouchable through peace. There will come a day when the people who betrayed you remember what they lost. They'll see you smiling again, thriving, glowing in ways they never expected. And they'll realize that they helped create the version of you who no longer needs them. That's their lesson. One they'll learn slowly, painfully, and on their own. You won't have to say a word. So let betrayal make you wiser, not colder. Keep your heart open, but guarded. Trust, but watch actions more than words. Love deeply, but never lose yourself in the process. Remember, you can't control what others do, but you can control how you respond. And your response defines everything. Betrayal will always hurt, but it doesn't have to harden you. It can purify you instead. It can make you softer where it matters, stronger where it counts. It teaches you who deserves a seat at your table and who doesn't even deserve to know where it is. You start to see that peace isn't something others give you. It's something you create for yourself. Now, when I look back, I don't see tragedy anymore. I see transformation. The pain that once broke me became the fuel that rebuilt me. I found myself in the ashes they left behind. And if I had to do it all over again, every heartbreak, every betrayal, every moment of doubt, I would, because it all led me here, to this peace, to this strength, to this unshakable version of myself. In the end, betrayal didn't defeat me. It defined me. It taught me how to walk alone without fear, how to love without losing myself, and how to let go without hate. And the people who once hurt me, they didn't end my story. They started a new one where I am the author and peace is my ending.